Should women consider removing a breast as a preventative measure against breast cancer if they're carriers of certain genes that correlate with a higher risk of breast cancer?
No. A short answer, no. And we even have some data. Women who have prophylactic mastectomy, who are like BRCA carriers, the difference in death rate at 10 years is 3%. And I don't think most women would take off their breasts for a 3% advantage. The other problem is that if you're a carrier of these genes, you also have a high risk of pancreatic cancer. I mean, how many body parts can you take out? So the risk of dying of many types of cancer is higher, and the better option would be to focus on reducing your risk of cancer as much as possible, not taking off your breasts and taking out your ovaries and thinking that you're fine.
How do we lower or eliminate the risk of type 2 diabetes?
Type 2 diabetes is almost always avoidable. It's a disease that is brought about by high-fat diets and being overweight or obese. 88% of diabetics are overweight or obese. And the reason we should pay attention to this is about 80% of the deadliest cancers, like pancreatic cancer, develop in diabetics. So that would be, sometimes diabetics, if they're taking metformin, think, well, I got it all under control. But they don't realize their high risk of cancer. And this just happens real personal to me because a friend of mine in Columbus, who was an obese diabetic all the time that I've known her, developed cancer in September of last year and was dead by mid-December. And that was completely avoidable, completely avoidable. So easy to fix. Start eating a health-promoting diet. And even if you're diabetic, if you've already developed type 2 diabetes, it responds really, really well to diet change. And in fact, many people, that's another one where you have to be medically monitored if you're taking drugs because you can end up comatose on the bathroom floor from low blood sugar if you're not careful.
Do you recommend people get a yearly flu shot?
The flu shot's the most useless of all of them. They're all of them useless, but completely useless. And the strains never match. It's just the Cochrane collaboration, which up until recently was the most independent research organization on the planet, has done review after review after review and concluded that this shot is useless for everybody, all years, all ages, all side effects, no benefit.
Do you recommend plant-based milks over cow's milk? Do you recommend we drink plant-based milks?
I recommend eliminating cow's milk. But this concept of milk with every meal, that's pretty ridiculous too. Children should be drinking water after weaning. So how you would use plant milks, and I use them myself, is when you're making a smoothie or you're having a big bowl of multigrain cereal that you would normally put cow's milk on and use like a vanilla almond milk instead. But the idea of drinking cow's milk or by drinking plant milk for a beverage, yeah, not so much.
Does higher cholesterol correlate with more health issues such as heart disease, strokes, heart attacks, and death?
High plasma cholesterol levels are directly related to not only an increased risk of heart attack, stroke, cardiovascular disease, but an increased risk of Alzheimer's disease in a dose-dependent manner. The higher your plasma cholesterol, the higher your risk of Alzheimer's disease becomes. But here's something that most people don't know. It also increases your risk of cancer and having aggressive cancers. And the reason is that most people understand that at some point in time, as cells become cancerous, they start to take up glucose at a higher level, 18 times the amount. Well, it takes a long time to build blood vessels and that sort of thing to feed tumors. And so the tumor cells look for alternative fuel, which is cholesterol in the bloodstream. And that's one of the reasons why people who are diagnosed with cancer often have low cholesterol levels at the time of diagnosis, which some people who don't understand the difference between correlation and a cause and effect relationship interpret it to mean that, oh, low cholesterol is bad, increases your risk of cancer. It's actually the other way around. So yeah, good reasons to get your cholesterol down. And by the way, an interesting discovery about that was made when Colin Campbell was doing his research in China, which was observational. But an observation that was made at the time when the study was going on was that people who had higher plasma levels of cholesterol also had a higher risk of several different types of cancer. Now, the purpose of that study was not to look into that particular relationship, but Tom Seyfried has looked into that relationship, and in his book, he was a speaker here last year actually, in his book, Cancer is Metabolic Disease, he discusses that issue at length.
If a health movie appears on Netflix, should we assume it has been vetted for accuracy and has mostly correct information on health and nutrition?
Not necessarily. Forks Over Knives was vetted. I was the person involved in the vetting, and Brian was meticulous about checking things out. One of the things I really respect about him. Other documentaries I've seen, I think the bigger picture is pretty accurate, but I often catch untrue statements being made. Fortunately, the vast majority of the information is true, and the big idea is generally correct. But I wish that everybody had been as rigorous as Brian was in that film.
Can you sum up everything we've talked about in 15 seconds?
Yeah, I think I can actually. The biggest thing that's plaguing healthcare right now that's fixable is lack of informed decision making. If all consumers in the country, if I could flip a switch, and they would all, starting right now, just check everything out in a non-emergency situation before they did it, the healthcare system would be well on its way to being fixed, because 2/3 of what people are currently agreeing to would automatically go away. And over time, a lot of the rest of it would too. That's the bottom line. And it's fixable because consumers can make that decision. We can't fix medical school. We can't fix medical practice. I can't make the FDA stop taking bribes from drug companies, but we can all fix our own decision-making process, and that's really the thing we need to focus on.
What's the one thing I need to do today?
Well, I think the first thing and the most important thing is you have to start taking care of yourself and using the same value system that you use for everything else. I mean, nobody lets it rain inside and says, oh, now we should do something with that roof, but you know how many kids I have playing soccer right now? I mean, you don't let that happen. You figure out a way to do it. Nobody drives around on a flat tire and says, I've been working overtime, it's tax season. So we seem to have some understanding of the fact that we have to maintain things in our life. Well, you have to maintain your body, or it's going to end up like the raining inside and the flat tire. And doing it proactively is much easier than trying to fix a situation that has already developed. I was on the phone the other day with a woman who has breast cancer, and she's terrified. And the first thing she said is, I know why this happened. I've been eating a terrible diet. I drank too much. I'm overweight. Okay, I wish that she so much had fixed that before.
What is it about the Real Truth About Health conference that made you want to come speak here?
What I appreciate about this conference is, first of all, the vast reach. How many people see this, like not just here, but out there on the stream and later when the videos are posted. And so for somebody like me, who my goal in life is to get the message out, if you want to get the message out, this is the place to be. I think the second thing is that Steve isn't afraid to take a walk on the wild side and invite really outside the box people to share their ideas. And that's important because we talked about censorship earlier. And so the opposite of censorship is allowing people to come and share ideas, some of whom don't agree with each other. I'm sure somebody sitting in the audience says, I listened to this person at 10 o'clock and this person at 2 o'clock, and I don't think they agree on anything. Well, the whole purpose of something like this isn't so everybody agrees. It's to bring a lot of people with a lot of different ideas to share. So that's what brings me here time and time again. And I hope to be able to do this every year.
For people that want to learn more about your work, where should they go?
My website's wellnessforumhealth.com. My personal email address, pampopper@msn.com. I answer all of my emails personally. And I put out a newsletter and video clips every week. Lots of free education that way. So feel free to ask for our free stuff to get to know us better. Thank you.